Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa. We love our time talking about the Jefferson Highway. We do this every fourth Thursday here on Big Blend Radio. And this is the Jefferson Highway. This is a historic highway that goes from Winnipeg, Canada, down to New Orleans, Louisiana. I mean, who doesn't want to travel that as a road trip? Whether you do it all in one route or you just like, hey, I'll do a little bit at a time. There's so much history. There is so much to experience. Nancy and I have done a little bit here and there, but we are going to be doing this for like the rest of our lives, I think, Nancy. Don't you think? The Jefferson Highway?
Oh yeah.
One of those projects that just it's under our fingernails.
Awesome.
And we want to thank our friend Arlene Gold from Natchitoches in Louisiana for getting this in front of us. And then Roger Bell, who's the president of the Jefferson Highway Association, and he came on a show, and now we're really hooked. And it's kind of a little, it's a good addiction. You can have an addiction, but this is a good one. This is one of those things that once you get down a rabbit hole, you want to do it. It's a rabbit hole and a highway at the same time. So I encourage people to go to jeffersonhighway.org, and I want to bring back Roger. Roger, how are you?
I am good, Lisa. It's always great to be here visiting with you.
You know what? It is a rabbit hole, right? Like it's a rabbit hole of a highway.
Well, I'm glad you have caught the JH bug. I caught it about 5 or 6 years ago, and just kind of out of the blue myself, and was introduced to it by a friend. And it seems like it grows every day, and it seems like you learn something every day. So it just it never ends. But
see, Nancy's jumping in her seat right now.
I know,
because
I've been reading your past newsletters when I can, because we're short on time a lot of times, and I'm like, oh man, and I'm writing down names. I'm like, oh man, there's so much that happened on this highway, America's first vacation highway. I'm like, wow. Because I've always been sort of personally addicted to the Pony Express across the country the other way.
Right.
Then I'm like, oh, I have to switch my brain to now north to south, south to north, as opposed to east to west, west to east. And then I'm like, okay, they're all really cool. So I'm like, oh, right. There's going to be somebody else is going to come up with another highway that we have to do. But this is full of history and nature. And when I'm reading your newsletters, I love it.
So everyone, you can become a member and get the newsletters if you go to Jefferson Highway.
Because I'm totally
I had to do a plug, but I want to bring our guest on. We've got a special guest joining us. Tom Alyea, he is, this is what they say on his Facebook, and he's an avid walker, which we love. Nancy and I love people that walk. He's a hiker. He's an author of a number of books, guidebooks, and journals. You can go to Wandering Walks of Wonder on Amazon, Facebook, Instagram. Seriously, if you go on his Facebook, you'll be hooked, and it's another rabbit hole because he takes you on walks in all these historic cities and places across the country. And he's done a number of places on the Jefferson Highway. So, Tom, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Nancy. Thank you.
Hey, it is good to have you here. So, is Amazon the best place for people to go? Facebook, tell us.
If they're looking at the 30 some odd guidebooks that I have done for various.
You crazy person.
Yeah,
really.
33 now that I've done, and probably 20 more in the works.
Wow.
We understand. So Amazon is the hot spot for that. And then Facebook, like you take us every day. There's something that is in my...
I constantly travel, whether it be on the Jefferson Highway, Route 66, just various places, national parks. sites with those. And I post what I take pictures of or experiences that I've had. I also do YouTube videos of walks in various, from small towns to museums to large cities as I go along. So I started that.
But your videos are like you are actually walking.
Walking,
I was on
yep.
I was on some of your YouTube videos the other day, and I'm like, he's actually taking us on a walk, and I think this is such a cool thing for people to. And I think I saw something about slow travel connected to yours.
Yeah, one of the ones I picked up really early on was on YouTube, and I'm very familiar. I have a good Jefferson Highway friend in Smithville, Missouri, which is just north of Kansas City.
Yeah.
And we recently we had a little rally up there a year or two ago, and I know that community enjoys the Jefferson Highway heritage, and the mayor and everyone else is involved. And I picked up on it, and I've walked that area myself, but it was really fascinating because, I think a lot of even the people that do these travelers that travel, they drive through these towns, but they don't really take the time to get out of their car and walk around. And they just, even some of these people that I will call road warriors, or who they may be, they drive across. They go to the community. They look in the downtown. They might stop for a bite to eat, or they might stop.
No, wait! You got to have the Instagram photo. Let's add that in there.
Yeah, you gotta have your photo. But they don't really take the time to just walk around the community, and you really. And I've done that, probably be guilty of both over time, but it really brought it to me. That's really an important part of the route and how we go forward, is get people to get out of their cars and walk and learn and appreciate things. Just walking down the streets of these communities is you pick up things that you would have never any other way.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
True. That's true.
Nancy and I do a lot of parks, and it used to be just national parks, but it's communities, it's towns. And we started our 1 hour walk Facebook group, hashtag 1 hour walk. And it's a small little group, but it's really about actually, some people we're posting things, the same area every day, because that's where they are. And it's about what you can see, these changes. Maybe it's the season, maybe it's a plant blooming, different birds come at different times. So there's this slowing down, and that's what I really love what you're doing, Tom, is that you're slowing down. You're taking us on this walking expedition, and for people coming to an area, you're giving people really good information and inspiration to go there, number one. But if someone can't, you're taking them on a walk too. Right. I think there's something really important
that's true.
with that. And you're also taking the slow travel. I never even thought about it that way, because like we started the Facebook group to let people know that you can walk just about, in a lot of places that you think you may not, but you don't have to be, it's not about being, an Olympian to do
right.
No, but but if you take the time to travel there, then you should take the time to look. And I mean, really look.
And that's what Tom's doing. Yeah.
And explore. What drives me is the curiosity of what happened in a particular building.
Exactly.
Many places don't really talk about what's going on. And fortunately, I'm really familiar with the National Registry of Historic Places.
Yeah.
And can navigate that really well. So even if it's a small town like Smithville, Missouri, or Macon City, Iowa, where you may not have, a full guide and understanding what's happening, you can quickly go there and you can look at, okay, here's this building, here's the address. Wow, this was one of the first buildings in town, or something was invented here, or a particular person stayed in this hotel. a famous person. It's just amazing what you can find out when you dig in just a little bit more. I've done that with my books quite a bit. That's what drove me to write the guidebooks. Yeah, it's a nice town. It's where I live and have lived here for 40 some odd years. But you just kind of drive through town, if you even get through that off the highway. But if you're down and exploring, you're like, well, that's a cool building. What happened here? And then you start finding out, maybe it's, something like a mobster did something there, or a held Ruth, stayed in. It's just awesome.
Oh, you listened to our last episode. I can tell.
See, but here's the thing. No, but if you just can, I don't know how to explain it really, other than be beside yourself. Like when you go into a new place and you can just take a deep breath, close your eyes, and let yourself be, then you start to get like vibes of people who've been there before, or something that has happened there before.
Nancy's getting woo-woo.
No, because you get a vibe off the buildings. Like if you're in a fort, the fort was there because somebody was attacking somebody, right? So that those vibes are going to be different than if you go into a church, or if you can go into a person's old adobe home. There's vibes. If you can close your mind off to the everyday stuff that's in your mind, and you can just relax. And I know it sounds really stupid.
See, I told you she's getting woo-woo.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. I mean, a great example, I did almost all of Jefferson Highway from Kansas City up north this summer.
Cool.
Trip. And one of the places that I remember was Albert Lee. I think that's how you pronounce it, Lee.
Yes.
And stopped right off at a waterfront where a lake was. And my first building that I hit was the Marion Ross Theater. So Marion Ross, and then there was a statue out front with her there, who she played in Happy Days with the Fonz and
cool.
That's
I know who she is.
That's her hometown.
And that was her hometown. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I get a feel of, she came across as, a very down-to-earth person. It's obviously Minnesota, a very down-to-earth place, a little bit cosmopolitan, it's a little bit bigger city. It's not huge.
Neat town.
And you get that feeling of, okay, you could see why she came across as a nice person, because this town, and it looked different, obviously, born and actually lived there quite a bit throughout her career. And then that was one of the cities that I did research on for a future book that I'll write. Because then I'm like, okay, that's a really cool understanding of what.
That's for Eddie Cochran, the famous rockabilly star.
Yeah. See, this is it. This is the rabbit hole. Once you get stuck on the Jefferson Highway, you're stuck for life. I mean, it is. I mean, we're going to be doing, as this episode airs, we're recording it a little bit sooner, but our magazines are going weekly, and you will see specific, issues just dedicated to the Jefferson Highway, because why not? It's so darn cool. You know what I mean? It's like this history. If you think about going from Minnesota to New Orleans, what could be bipolar opposites? Like, Minnesota, Winnipeg, right? We're going you're going to the palm trees and swamps. You're going through Oklahoma and, Native American heritage, and you're going through outlaws, and you're going through palm trees, pine trees. You're doing the whole thing. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
I've got a couple of questions for Tom. A lot of our guests I've talked to before, so this is the first time I've really talked with Tom in person. So I really I had a couple of questions, because I picked up on his Facebook and his YouTube all of a sudden, and I'm thinking, man, we really need if Tom would actually do the Jefferson Highway, and then just all of a sudden he's traveling up the Jefferson Highway, and I'm like, how did that happen? But how did you discover that? Because it wasn't through me. I know that. And how did that become something to fascinate you? And what surprises did you have as you were traveling around northward?
Well, what got me started is earlier this year over the winter, I had just completed a walking travel guidebook of Route 66. So I took 20 of the most prominent cities or towns from Chicago to Santa Monica. And I wrote individual guidebooks for each of those cities, and then I combined it into one large travel guidebook. I mean, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of travel guides on Route 66.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do that. And we know it's more of a driving thing. I wanted to take a different approach because I've always been a great walker and explorer and just a great sense of curiosity. And I wanted to get people out of the car in places like Pond or Carthage, Missouri, or even Baxter Springs, and stop and wander around the town a little bit. You see a building, that's a cool building, but what may have happened there? So I completed that project, which took a couple years of going to each of the locations I chose, walking it, understanding what was going on, taking pictures, getting them posted, and then writing and researching and writing the book. So what got me interested in the Jefferson Highway was I usually spend the winters down in the Gulf Coast area, somewhere Pensacola, Orange Beach, Alabama.
Nice.
Those types.
Warm. Where it's warm.
And where it's warm. Yeah. I'm fortunate that I can, have an opportunity to get away for a couple months in thorough weather. And as I started heading north, I decided to go through New Orleans. One, I wanted to attend Mardi Gras for the first time in New Orleans. And as I started getting a little bit further north, I think it was around Alexandria, Louisiana.
Yeah.
I started seeing that, okay, this would be cool towns. I mean, obviously New Orleans would have a great guidebook, Baton Rouge, but then I started seeing places like Alexandria and Shreveport and a few other towns in just Louisiana. I'm like, this would make a great book. And quick Googles and realize, there's this thing called the Jefferson Highway that just starts in New Orleans and makes its way up to Winnipeg, or vice versa. The Palm to Pine to Palm Highway. And then what got me fascinated was literally probably 2 miles from my house is 169 Highway, which heads to Smithville, Missouri, which was right on Jefferson Highway. Okay, I could pick another 15, 20 different locations. I'll initially start with writing some individual books and then compiling it so that as people travel, whether you travel it all in a week or two, or you do it, over several years, and get out and stop in these places. So I thought, this is a great idea. And I think it was about April, I had an opportunity to spend some time up in the Iowa area. Very familiar. I mean, Kansas City's fairly close to Iowa. And there were, some great towns heading up. Lamoni, I think you pronounce it. I always said Lamoni, but somebody said it's Lamoni. Obviously Des Moines, is a big city. I believe
it's Des Moines. I'm just kidding.
Des Moines.
I'm just kidding.
Seriously.
I'm just kidding.
This was a lot of fun. That I could pick another area where I could not only do guidebooks, but about 3 years ago, I decided that it was about 3 years ago. I started watching these videos where people were walking in various locations around the United States. At that time, I was in an office, the only one in the office, and in effect stuck inside doing a part job, and it's like, I'm bored. I like to walk, but Missouri's cold, or I'm here in this office. And I came across these walking videos where literally people just walk from New York City to Paris, you name it, big, and a lot of them were big towns. And I thought, what a great way, honestly, to promote my books is to go out and walk the routes that I did, and film those areas. And then it just grew from that point where, you don't have to stick to just your books. A lot of these smaller towns, smaller cities have fantastic places to just wander around and explore and look at the architecture.
That's what we found. That's what we found. And they have like pocket parks too. And it's really cool what you're doing, because I think it's for the traveler, like you're talking about, is such a big deal too. And to get them outside, but it's also about community and town pride of towns looking at it through somebody else's eyes, and also realizing what they have and maybe want more of. Like, it's like people are walking around. Maybe you have something for shade. Do you have one? Do you have a gazebo? Do you not? I mean, we have a friend who has walked and he has walked across the country, cycled the perimeter of the country, done the Pacific Crest Trail, part of the Appalachia. Like, he's crazy. Jim Ostick, he's crazy.
Yeah, he's
a good guy. Great books out there too on Amazon, Jim Ostick. But he has a blog just on gazebos.
Oh, okay.
And it came from him walking everywhere and going, the gazebos are, he realized these were the communities that had, like, we need to have a gathering spot. This is historically part of, like, what we found as we travel. If you see the courthouse has
the courthouses are awesome.
And the gazebos are normally near there, right? So I have to dig into that history a little bit more, but he's got this blog on that because it's just like gazebos and towns. And then he has one on bike racks too, because he's a cyclist. But there's a thing about communities, understanding that people actually frequent the community. Does that sound weird, Tom? But isn't that a big deal, actually, when you travel?
And part of it is seeing those places. I've actually had people reach out to me saying, I'm thinking of moving to this town. What was, so they'll either put a comment in a video or they'll send me an email through a contact there. And, they use the video to say, okay, that may not be such a bad place. Some of my other videos that have done very well, and things are getting better, but a couple years ago things weren't quite as good to get out and travel, are college campuses, which are just fountain of history and people who are alumni from even a small college or how it was founded, and people used that type of material to see what the college looked like. Without going there, because I'm doing it for fun, but they're actually using it as research material.
Right.
There.
Well, and that's true, because people, okay, the internet is the internet, and and so you can find just about anything you want, but you have to also siphon through what's true, what's not true. You have to be, aware. And I can see, that's the quickest, easiest way to figure out where you want to travel next, where you want to live, what vocation are you interested in, what college to go to. It's amazing.
But walking it is a big deal. That does tell you about a town.
Well, that's
immediately,
footstep by footstep.
Yeah, and I love the history part when you talk about the National Historic Register. Nancy does that when we go to a place. Like Nancy's geeked out on Jefferson Highway. Oh my God.
Oh yeah,
Roger, you should see Nancy's notes. It's insane.
Okay, good.
It's beyond rabbit hole. Like I want to
because so much happened.
It's out of control.
I'm trying to.
She's out of control.
No, I have this whole database of
No, she has a Jefferson Highway database of insanity, and it's great.
So, Tom, you've gone the northern route. Are you considering going south out of Kansas City at some point?
Yeah, actually, when I head down to the coast this year, I'm going to take the southern route. So that would take me here through Oklahoma, which is probably about the area that I have not either filmed or some research on.
So you can see Roger then. Cool.
Yeah, you can see me.
Yeah.
We can take a walk together.
Yeah,
cool. That's the thing. That's exactly it, right? So that's the thing about taking walks. I mean, do you ever do that with other people? Like go on, like you're doing so much with the walking part of it, and I love it that you call it wandering walks of wonder, because you're getting people to understand that slow down, take a walk, and open your eyes. That's to me what your whole title of everything is. But like meeting Roger and going for a walk, do you think that would open up other wonders? Like, because when you walk do you do that with other like locals so that they can show you like, hey, this is the history of this building. Like, this is my family was living in here or something like that.
What got me started actually on walking it's been 7 or 8 years ago, is I found an organization. We have a chapter in Kansas City. It's a national organization called America's Walking Club, AVA, American Vogue Sport Association, but we now call it America's Walking Club. And we literally have a couple hundred clubs across the United States that have mapped routes within certain cities. And, for example, I actually the president of our club in Kansas City. We have about 30 members thereabouts. And we do walks every Saturday morning on a predefined route that we have. And then periodically we'll pick different places in the area. But what's nice is some locations I go to where they have clubs and have these routes, I can get in touch with the club and find information, a route to take that I know somebody walked before. Now, unlike what I do with my books, there's not a lot of history, but I know it's a safe walk to do. That, and I've been involved with that group. 8 years now. So
cool. Awesome.
That's cool. I actually know about the group through Yuma, Arizona. They do it in a certain area in the downtown, and I have friends who have a hotel out there on Old Highway 80. That I don't know. We're addicted to these old routes, but it's interesting. But that's a part of it, and they put on their website. They're like very proud to let everybody know. But I think this is very interesting, and I want to go back to Roger with this because it's walking, versus driving, but when you think about all of these parts of the puzzle that makes this highway so important, when I think about what you guys are doing at the Jefferson Highway Association, you have the conference every year, and we've got to catch up on that on a future show here. But one thing I think that's so cool that I'm seeing also on your Facebook page and group, everyone, Jefferson Highway Association, go check it out on Facebook. You're always showcasing things that are going on, and especially in the discussion group, it's just, again, rabbit hole geek out, all these things that are happening or have happened in the past, but or what are happening now. It's interesting to me about the signs more than anything. I'm pretty kind of like, I think this is an important thing for not just drivers, but walkers, like what Tom is doing, that these signs are there, because Nancy and I, we actually, our timing was so off, but we were like, we've got to go to this town, even if it's 2 a.m, to get to the sign so we can photograph the sign, because I think the sign is everything, because that's what those highways were like. You're on the road. This is the sign. You're on the right path. And it made you feel like you were like on it. You know what I mean? Like, and even to this day, that highway sign means everything. We
have 2 signage efforts underway, and they both kind of fit this. Of course, the normal route signage to help you around, it's growing. Iowa, as the whole route march, just found out actually this morning that we're fully funded in Oklahoma now, and everything looks like it's a green light to start signing the entire route in Oklahoma in sometime next year. And it's been in the process for a while.
How does that happen? But let's back up. How does that happen? How does
a lot of effort, a lot of political effort.
The Highway Association? Like, do you get the transportation people involved?
Yeah, well, we got the lieutenant governor here involved. We got state representative, state senator involved. We had a bill signed. We worked with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for over a year. I drove the whole route in Oklahoma earlier this year. Part of it with my son, but part of it by myself. And went community just to confirm everything. And we're excited about it. In fact, a little bit off subject, but in Oklahoma, we have in the next couple of weeks, Oklahoma Today magazine is doing a complete story on the route. They're driving the whole route with a photographer. And it kind of fits back to this a little bit, because in their story, and talking to the writer, and he's really, you talked about geeked out. He's got the bug also. I can tell. You could talk to somebody that's just writing a story, but somebody that really is already intrigued by it, and he's really intrigued by it. And he's a veteran writer of travel stuff. And what I got from him, it kind of fits into this. He wanted to find places that people can get out of their car and walk, because people travel a little bit, and so he specifically wanted me to point out some of these places to him on the route, and I was able to do that. If you remember our last episode, Nancy and Lisa, was about Bellstar's deal. You can get out and walk up that trail. That's one of them. We have a civil. Oklahoma is not known for Civil War battlefields, but we have one of the most unique in the United States. It's the only one where you had African Americans, Native Americans, and Confederate and Union soldiers all fighting with their own different regiments in the same battle, and that's right on the Jefferson Highway route. And so that's a place people can get out and explore, and there's several places like that. And I've made it made me kind of think about that as an important part. It is to get out of your car and walk some of these places, and when I see what Tom's doing going up, and every day I was geeking out seeing where he was next on the Jefferson Highway, and being on that route, it was he picked out some things that I probably didn't see, but I was just really because I didn't get out of the car and walk it like he did. I did some places, but I didn't have time.
But if you read the history, right, and you go to the place where something happened, somebody did this before you, and you walk that part of the trail, and you think about who was there before you and what they did and why you know that, because you read that history, then it is so much more meaningful.
And you've been studying this, Nancy, and I study it quite often. And I look at, when I'm presenting in a community, I'm going to be presenting in a community in the next few days. And one of the things that I find when I research is there's stories around every bit. I mean,
there's a million stories.
I mean, it's just like you just don't know when you're going to discover it, but if you start looking at something, you're like, wow, I didn't know that happened here. I didn't know.
It's like a spider web. Like
it doesn't have to be all in the 1920s, but it's just like, how do these things all work together?
And then you have what's happening present day. That's the other part that I'm also intrigued about is the communities when you walk through them. And I love this about the footsteps through, because you can go through a town, and Tom, I know you know this, you can walk through the town while it's busy, bustling on a weekend versus the midweek and see people just kind of, there's times to walk where you can see like a restaurant setting up or not being quite open and things being the quieter zone. Like
I'm curious if Tom, what do people think of Tom? Do they say, why is this guy videoing
we wonder about you, Tom. What do people think of you,
what's
Tom?
up, dude?
But I mean, really, Tom, when you travel in a town, when you walk, there's this thing where you actually get a sense of what's happening in the community, this sense of life, and restaurants opening up, shops opening up, people sweeping their front doorsteps. Do you know what I mean, Tom? There's this whole other slow down sense.
I have had people stop me. I mean, the camera I use is really small. It's kind of just a handheld type camera. It's a nice one.
Yeah.
It's uses a camera that a professional drone uses, so it's really small. But they have stopped me, and I've gotten into some great conversations about various, just what's going on in town or what happened here. A great example, and it actually happened over the spring here in Kansas City. I was walking through a neighborhood, saw a really cool house. In front of it was, said something about Satchel Paige. And I'm like, okay, and it was a cool house, but needed a lot of restoration. So I saw an older gentleman on the porch right next door. And he goes, yes, Satchel Paige, the baseball player who played for the Negro Leagues and then played for, I can't remember now, Indians, I think. He lived in that house, and the guy was talking, and we talked some more. He, as a little kid, used to play with Satchel Paige, play catch in that yard right across the street.
And that's just amazing because you don't really know.
That's cool.
Right on the Jefferson Highway, right when the Paseo starts there on the corner is the birthplace of Negro League baseball and the YMCA building there. And they have and there's also the Negro League Hall of Fame is basically within a walking distance right up the route on the highway. And Satchel Paige is, I heard the other day that there's an effort now to restore that house.
Wow.
And so it'll be, it's really, it's part of the Jefferson Highway Travelers deal and will be even more when that's done. So,
nice.
And the surprise that you get, this past trip, I was driving up through Iowa and went into Mason City. And I've heard of the town before. It was kind of small city. And I'm like, okay, kind of cool. And I started seeing all this Frank Lloyd Wright kind of murals on the wall. I'm going, what?
That's our conference site next year, Tom, if you don't know.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah.
I have been to nearly every Frank Lloyd Wright home, studio, you name it. And I'm going, what is going on here? So I, drove around a little bit and I think it was called the Park Inn Hotel, if I remember right. And it's one of the only remaining hotels that he had designed.
That's our conference hotel next year.
Oh, is it? Really?
Oh, wow.
This is just well done. Tom, you're setting this up perfectly. Somebody paid you $20.
Awesome. That's so funny.
And I talked
Roger.
I went inside and I talked to the young lady and she goes, yeah. And she gave me a little brochure walking tour with other homes that were designed by either Frank Lloyd Wright or part of his architecture school. Right. And I'm like, what was going to be, maybe 3 or 4 hours spent in town filming it because it was not only on the Jefferson Highway, but a very cool town film. Ended up being a couple days and then sitting down going, this would be a great place to do a guidebook in because it's about 13, 14 blocks of these, let alone the history of some of the downtown buildings from churches to, I don't remember if there was a courthouse there or not. I can't remember.
It's no longer there. The bank where Dillinger robbed the bank there and the old bank's there.
And that's how my ideas usually come up for, when I did this with Route 66, what happened here and what's going on? And it then quickly became one of this past year going up north. I made it as far as the Canadian border. Unfortunately, I forgot to take my passport on the trip, so I could.
Whoopsie!
Whoops! But I thought, okay, this is going to be this would be a great place, on top of places like Des Moines and Shreveport and New Orleans and Alexandria and other places to do a book. This is another one in a very cool community that's very historic.
This is cool that you're doing this, because I just love that you're slowing down time and getting people to, I mean, that's something we do on more of a nature aspect, but we do it on history too. Because
I saw you walked. I'm sorry.
You can't just do a building and go, that's great architecture. You got
I saw you walked up to the Lake Itasca Park. You walked up to the Mississippi, where the start of the Mississippi River is, didn't you, Tom?
Yes. Yeah. That was one of my bucket list items to do. I have worked all over the world, traveled in the United States quite a bit, and slower travel, I call it back road travel. I try to avoid the interstates as much as possible.
Yeah.
That I have certain things on my bucket list, and that was one of them. The Mississippi River started, and that was a great experience. And again, it came about with, okay, I want to travel Jefferson Highway going north. It did go right past Itasca State Park, amongst other cool towns that were up in that area. And so I'm able to cross off things that I wanted to do. And, my travels take me all over the place. I branch off from there, and, I went as far as there as National Falls, and I'm a big national park person. So anytime national or state park, do that. I'm kind of a geek. I do the junior ranger programs as a 16.
Yeah, you're like us. Yeah.
Okay,
we have a pink sock monkey that does that.
I just have to give him the tree exercise.
Oh,
I haven't done it for a long time. I have to give you the tree exercise. So here, when you're traveling and you see a tree that you're attracted to, like you look, that's a beautiful tree. You get down on your hands and knees beside the tree, put your right
Nancy
hand.
does this with every tree. I'm just telling you.
No. And you put your right hand on the tree, and you're on your hands and knees. You put your right hand on the tree trunk, and you close your eyes, and you stay there until you feel the heartbeat of the tree.
It does work. Trust me.
Yeah, no.
I know it sounds woo-woo, but it really works.
No,
Roger,
it sounds
I know
so
Roger's
crazy.
going, what
But
did this happen? But it's true.
Here's what happens. First of all, if you have a high blood pressure, it lowers your blood pressure right down. It's a great exercise for people with high blood pressure.
But
what it does,
you get to trees.
It puts you in sync with your environment as you are right there, and it clears your mind, and it puts you in a whole new space, and it's a great exercise.
It's a great way to start your walk.
Yeah,
honestly, it's a great way to start a walk, because if you can start a walk that way, you have a fresh slate. Your mind is clearer, and we're not getting woo-woo on you, but we are. But just a little bit. But it is about being more centered in it. It's not, you can look at it woo-woo, or you can look at it, you just calm down for a second.
No, it's about relating to your environment.
I think that's important to talk about this.
Yeah. Because you're touching the tree.
Yeah.
And you're matching your heartbeat to the heartbeat of the tree. I know that sounds really crazy, but trees are living beings. So, okay, maybe they don't have a heart as we know them to have a heart, but they are still alive. So they've been alive longer than us, some of them, especially in the Sequoia region. So
you got the grandpappy. outside of Natchitoches, Louisiana, which is one of the tallest trees. So longleaf pine.
And what's the harm of trying it?
So Roger, we're going to have to do trees on the highway because it goes from the palms to the pines. So we're going to have to do a tree show now. See what's happening now.
There are some tree stories on the highway.
See, that's a thing.
I can imagine.
See, so like, okay, so Tom, is Nancy totally woo-woo?
No, because I've done so much hiking in my life that I feel that. This past summer, I spent a lot of time not only going up north on the Jefferson Highway, but branched across to the Upper Peninsula. And all my trips I do, other than at the coast where I'm at a condo, I camp when I'm doing that. So I'm out in nature. And a great example is I came back from the coast or from the Upper Peninsula, got into kind of the Duluth area. I was camping at, I think, Jay Cook State Park, beautiful park up in there. And I went down in Duluth, but I had really spent about a week and a half really out in nature on various, a couple different campgrounds up along Lake Superior. It's like, I need that tree back again. I don't need this, and it was a very, I went in, it was cool, great video, talked to a few people, some cool museums, but, I understand that. Even when I do stay at home for a little bit, I have a very nice backyard with trees, and it's like, there's more life in that than a building. I also believe buildings have a life in them too.
Yes. Yes. This is very important. I think that's what's interesting about what you do, and also the Jefferson Highway as a whole.
Yeah.
When I think about what the Jefferson Highway Association is doing, Roger, seriously, we love what you guys are doing, because I think it's just this, to create awareness of this highway that is creating awareness of history. And it goes beyond the actual highway itself. The highway is a path, and it's what we discover on there. But it does remind us about history of these buildings, and what you do, Tom, about showcasing these buildings. The National Register, I mean, we've been in places where there's like 100 buildings, like on the register. Nancy will go, there's 100 buildings. I'm like, we can't do all of them. She'll go, yes, we can. I'm like, no, we can't, because we have to be in this place next, Nancy's like, yes, we have to. And we're going to have to make a video. And like, we never get all the time to do it. But it is true about walking, because you can't do it from your car window. You can if you want to stop and look. But there's something about these buildings that what you're talking about is you start researching the buildings, you start finding out the families that live there, and you imagine, oh, these kids were playing here, and maybe it was this person, or it doesn't have to be a famous person. I think we've got to remember that. And when you go to a museum in these local communities, I don't care if it's a city or a small, tiny, tiny, tiny town, when you can put the face to the place, it's amazing. But there is a feeling to these places when you walk by, and give that building time, when you can just stand for even 2 to 3 seconds versus walking by, you get a sense, and you can feel it. Like, I'm not trying to be woo-woo here, because it's not woo-woo. It's about giving that place the soul that it has.
It's an inner sense of connecting with what's around you, what vibes there are. It's all electronic, whatever. You can talk to a scientist, so the neutron, electrons, protons, whatever. I don't care. I just know that if you can calm yourself down long enough to actually feel your surroundings, you'll get a vibe.
Yeah, but you can connect to the history.
Well, I think there's a little bit of that in what Tom does. I mean, he gets out. We drive through these communities. You think back to these travelers that started the Jefferson Highway in the back way of the day. They were traveling in cars that only went 20, 25 miles an hour.
Cool.
They weren't going 60 to 70 or whatever down the highway.
Yeah.
And they weren't trying to, they were going into almost every one of these communities because the highway went right down the heart of them for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't on, they didn't bypass them, and, you know, they didn't have all
Yeah.
this.
But
They got out of most of them, when they got into these communities, what did they do? They get out and stopped and they walked, and they took that time. And our
And
travelers today, a lot of us don't do that. We're trying to get to one place. We're going to get one destination.
A to B. A to B.
You know, my friends are going to go to the beach. They don't even stop anywhere on the route. They just go to the beach. I'm there, and they come back. And they're missing so much of America by doing that.
I will tell you this, that all the friends I know that are in Canada are like, you're talking about Winnipeg. Like some are in Winnipeg and some aren't anymore. And then some know Winnipeg and they're like, holy cow, none of them had any idea. And they're just all excited. They're like, what? We're connected to this part? Like we're connected to New Orleans? Like, how did that happen? Like, that's cool. Like the Winnipegians. I don't know if they're Winnipegians, but I'm calling them Winnipegians are happy to be connected to New Orleans.
That's funny.
So no, but it's like this cool thing. Like people we want to be connected in some way. And
I think a lot of the highways, even the historic highways in our country, Route 66 or Lincoln Highway, whatever, they were all most of them were east-west routes, not all, but most of them.
And
you know, the American deal is, you know, Westward Ho, you know, it's, you know, and we're akin to that, but this is a route that is, the uniqueness is it's a north-south route that touches but you know, the borders of our country and the coast, and the cultural difference between northern Minnesota and southern Louisiana is quite a bit different. And it is and you get the plains of Iowa, and you see things that you wouldn't even think you'll see in some states. You get up into areas of the Ozarks, or even in, you know, just things that you wouldn't think along the route. But it is, I think there's a uniqueness to that. And
I agree.
It blows my mind, just the terrain. Like we've done a little bit of the Jefferson Highway, and we have prairie land when we were in Missouri and Arkansas, and mountains and Oklahoma. You're getting into this western part. I mean, parts of Oklahoma that we were in were like almost like Yellowstone, like honestly, with the bison and the
Oklahoma is a very varied state, you know, living here and growing
up. Wichita Mountains.
You know, people think of us as being the flatlands, or you know, some people think we're no trees or no hills.
But it's like this. But listen, I listen to country music there. I just want a big truck.
But you're so right. This is why people need to get in their car and go travel, because what they think is so far from what's true. Yeah, they have to go see it for themselves.
And you all would know because you've been all over the place.
I think we've counted, like in the last 10 years. We've done. We're 8. Well, not even 10 years. The last 2 years, we're down to we have 8 states left to do of this country. Wow. But Minnesota is one of them. And so Tom, you're gonna help us on that part.
Tom, what you talked about Albert Lee, you talked about Mason City. What other communities intrigue you to do a walking guide on the route that you did?
A couple of them going up north, south, that was out there. When I've actually written the book, St. Paul and Minneapolis. Wow. St. Cloud was a very cool town. A lot of history. One of the things and many, not all, because sometimes I'm traveling on the weekends or whatever, is I always try to stop off at the local history museum.
Yes.
Of information. Usually it's a resident who's been there forever, who knows about that. And, you know, if there's not a walking guidebook at a visitor center or Chamber of Commerce, maybe the History Museum has, not a guidebook, but a brochure or something. But St. Cloud was a great community. The university that was there. There's also an opportunity that was really cool across from the river. Beautiful. I think it was called Munsinger Gardens. Beautiful place that was there. I remember the town, but the history struck me more. I think it was Little Falls.
Yeah, that was going to be my next guess if you had
very
cool.
Little
Falls. Yeah.
That was the town that Charles Lindbergh grew up in. His home.
Yes.
Oh wow,
Cool.
Charles Lindbergh rocks. He's an amazing human being.
I didn't do a lot of the details there. I actually stayed at Charles Lindbergh State Park, which was surprisingly for Minnesota in the summertime the worst mosquito park that I've ever been. I have more of a van type camper than, an RV or something. And that was one literally I got out of the car 5 minutes, set up, and then sat in there all night long.
We understand. Nancy and I is still covered in mosquito bites right now from certain.
I think I saw you at Bemidji at the Paul Bunyan and Babe.
Yeah, Bemidji was a great town. The Bemidji State University, which was really close to the downtown area. That would be another one that, had a lot of historic buildings. The town had his history in it. Not only just, the Paul Bunyan and Babe statue along the.
I see, dude, when I saw that, I want to go there. That is like iconic.
It was a very laid back, very cool, more of a city. I mean, small city, but
that's cool.
Right on the lake there.
Right on the lake, and I stayed at Lake Bemidji State Park.
But you said Midgie. Is Midgie like is in Midgies like mosquito Midgies?
I'm not
Bemidji.
Sure, but Bemidji is the name of the lake.
It's named after a chief, an Indian chief.
Indian chief,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not the Midgies. Okay, I had to clarify. This is so cool that you've done this. I mean, all these places. I mean, it's really hard to even time it. I mean, to be able to walk it like seasonally,
Definitely in Minnesota, you're going to want to do in the spring or something.
Yeah, you're not going to do winter.
I did not see those videos in February.
No.
Well, don't say that. We're going to be.
When you see fire hydrants with poles on them, so that no plows don't hit them, and those poles are taller than I am, and I'm right at about 5'10". I'm
going up there in February.
Now
we're going up. We're going up. We're going up at the end of February in early March. We're going up to the top of Wisconsin because we thought, well, that's kind of close to the Jefferson Highway.
One of the early slogans for the Jefferson Highway was "It's always summer somewhere on the Jefferson Highway."
Yeah, that's right. And that's
but you might have to go to New Orleans to find it.
No, but that's a really cool slogan,
That is cool. That is cool. I love that.
That's really awesome. I love
it. Tom, what you're doing is fantastic. It is amazing because I as Europe has opened up into travel again, people are going to Europe and they're rediscovering the fact that they can walk. This, you know what I mean? I don't mean that in a flippant manner. I mean it that Europe is all about walking, and our country's kind of gotten lazy in that way. I don't know, Nancy and I lived in California, and so there's a lot of space, even in Arizona, etc. So you do drive a lot because of the amount of space. But honestly,
we've had in two of our conferences we've done bike tours.
See, this is the thing. I think it's so important.
We did when we were in Natchitoches in 2019. I led with a local bike club there, and I'm a cyclist, not as much as I used to be, but I have a 1940s vintage Swin bike, and I brought it.
Sweet.
Oh, cool.
And rode, kind of led the efforts. So we went around some of where the tourist camp was there, and some of the buildings, and people there were in the bicycle club. We'd stop and tell them about it. But what is really this has really made me think what we need to do is we need to do a walking tour during.
Yeah, I think so. I really think so, because it's about it.
Time to reflect.
And I think we may do that in Mason City. We'll see.
I think you've got to, because I know Tom will agree with me on this. There's something about slowing down and even just looking at the flowers in the person's garden that you're walking by. And then,
but you
know
have
what
to,
I mean?
To actually accept what the earth is giving you. I know it sounds really woo-woo, but
no, she's back in the woo-woo.
No, it's the vibes of the place. You can't get it
from the car.
If you can't get it in a car, you have to walk. Yeah, and you have to be quiet, and you have to accept.
And also think about people that were walking on that path before you. See, that's a thing. And sometimes it could be a dirt road. It could be, Tom, how many times have you done like dirt road walking versus the town?
Yeah. You're talking about that kind of experience. And I wish we had more of it other than the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail of the U.S. Is 7 years ago, I walked the entire Camino de Santiago in Spain. So
yes, sweet. Yes.
About 30 days or so it took me. Not only do you slow down, but you're walking, but you experience, from different trees. Even in the United States, when I go down south, it's like, we don't have palm trees here in Kansas City. And when I was up north in Minnesota this year, I really hated leaving all the pine trees that I saw, because we don't have as much in Kansas City. So
there you go. Thanks, Tom. Pine to Palm Highway.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I'm excited about it, because it's like when you're talking about that, that's a thing. When you walk and you go to these places, like Nancy and I mean, we're on the road full time, and what's getting to me is that we're so addicted to GPS, and I was anti it, and it was only 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, that I was like, okay, we had to turn it on because we weren't going to make our destination on time when we were late, and I got lost in Lubbock. Okay. And Texas, by the way, you and your little loopy-loo things, the loop around,
the loop trails,
it's a mess for people who don't get it. But once you get it, you get it. But they have this loopy-loo thing that goes around, but like wherever you are, they have a loop. They have a loop. They have a loop.
They have loops.
But
I lived in Lubbock, so I know.
You understand the loop. You know what I mean about this loop that goes around, and you could have the road and it's on the other side and the other. Anyway,
but the one thing that is that when I do like the videos, not the guidebooks, because is I literally drive into the town, find the courthouse, a park, and I just go, wander up and down the streets. Sometimes I go into areas maybe I shouldn't go in a bigger city, and other areas in a small town. It's like, well, that's about it for here. It's that sense of curiosity you get by walking and really the feel of what's here. Then I can go back and research a little bit more, but that is what I wish more people had the excitement about. Okay, it's not just walking to walk, it's what is around the next corner.
I want to ask you about this, because you talked about the courthouse
from a car.
But the courthouse thing, this is really, I find this important. Like the courthouse thing, Nancy and I have been doing this. We have a law and order thing, and I've photographed so many courthouses, and I have to do a courthouse map, actually.
Isn't it?
And I find it fascinating how that's like kind of like the beginning of the city. So when you start out from there, isn't that kind of like the roots of, this is when people said, we're going to settle here. And there's always going to be water nearby or something, like, they decided to settle here for a reason. But the courthouse is actually kind of the hub, like from what we've discovered, just not knowing anything, but just doing it.
Well, when you get
found that? I mean, when you get that, Tom?
Yeah, no, that's why I generally start like in a courthouse, And once I'm either done with the walk, because I like that sense of excitement, I'll go back and go, well, why is the town named this way? What's that? What's that? Who were the ancestors? Then you'll read that, okay, the courthouse was this, but it's the third courthouse, and the first one was a log one, and the owner, the person who founded the city provided and then I may look at, okay, the name of the county. Who was it named after? The county, every state has a Washington and Adams County and all that, but you'll find, some local hero who was in the Mexican-American War, let's say, or, a Native American was big back in, the days that they were forming the community that was there. And that's what really trying to get a feel of what's going on. But no, a courthouse, a park, and then to me, like you, I take pictures of every courthouse that I'm at. And
it's insane. Yeah.
I'm kind of a geek about it. I have a map or 50 maps of every county, and I use a little pencil and mark off all the counties that I've been either walked through or taken a picture of the courthouses of that are out.
What I like about the courthouses and government buildings is the architecture. Like sometimes you got the gargoyles, which cracks me up because it's so European and so old school. And then you have the straight up and down, which to me personally, I find boring. And I know it's efficient and all that, but I like the old fashioned ones with the sculptures and the gargoyle. I like the gargoyle.
There's a lot that have like veteran statues and
I know.
We haven't found that many with gargoyles, but there's the lions.
Once in a while,
lions,
you do. Yeah,
the lions are there.
The lions on the doorsteps. Well, that's
have you found that?
Libraries have it. I like.
Oh yeah, I've come to because a lot of my books, all even actually in the back of each one has a listing of architectural styles. I can look at a building now and go, it's neoclassical or Gothic or Italianate. Or
that's crazy, right? Isn't that
See?
like now? I didn't know about architecture until we started doing the walking like neighborhoods, and like during COVID when we were traveling, we would stay in historic bed and breakfast, and then next thing you know, you learn about this architecture and like, oh, we're in this neighborhood and it's all this, the town basically. This is what's interesting, what I found out, and I don't know, Roger, Tom, if on the Jefferson Highway, if you found this, we've been in communities that, and Frank Lloyd Wright was one, Grand Rapids area, the Heritage Hill area, and I know this is off the highway, but this was a community that said, hey, we're not going to lose our history of being this historic neighborhood with all these historic homes, and they wanted to come in and change the neighborhood, and they're like, hell no, we're keeping our neighborhood as historic as it is, and we've got a Frank Lloyd Wright house right here, even though he bailed halfway through and apparently had an affair with his assistant or had a fight with it. But anyway, I don't know the truth.
Okay.
I'm just saying there was drama. But
I think we saw the gargoyles was in Texas, actually.
But anyway, but really there's these neighborhoods where they had to actually fight to keep their sense of place of these historic homes and historic brown houses and Victorian homes. And I mean, the Greeky things, I don't know everything. I do not know anything about architecture until prairie houses. I mean, I started learning about this just walking, and I would Missouri was really one of the places I learned when we were out. Webster Grove, Missouri, outside of St. Louis, was where I started, because that's what you could do, was walk, right? Yep. During COVID, you could walk a neighborhood and these historic homes, and you started like realizing these are families now living in these very historic homes. And then you're going, they have like little markers that this is part of the historic home tour thing. And there are regular families living in these homes and that are taking care and doing all the historic things that they need to do to keep this home historic and still live in it but you know they're sinking a bunch of money into it, and it's a really big
Yeah.
project, and yet they have kids in the front lawn, and you're going like, how are you doing this? So it's like this, as you walk, and then you have the original churches suddenly, and then a railroad or whatever, you know what I mean? You start to see what life was like before, what it is now, but then people really rallying around to keep that sense of place.
What's amazing is when I dig into the history, when I do an actual guidebook, how connected things become. Yeah, I remember doing the book on St. Paul, Minnesota. How I think it was James J. Hill, who was owner of the Northwestern Railroad, I believe it was one of the largest railroads in the U.S.
Wow.
You know, not only was his house along the route, but the architect who did his house did this, 10 other houses in this neighborhood that I walked. And then you dig a little bit further, and well, his mistress lived in this house, and all this, and it's like it just starts getting so fascinating. And you talk about that rabbit hole, when you do these things, you go, wow. And then the architect of this building did this building, this, and then you go back and go, okay, I can see a similar style that's there, or why did they choose that style? Because architecture fascinates me. I'm an accountant by trade, or was an accountant by trade. So I think in my past life I was an architect, because I look at a building, I'm going, I'll walk through a town where I kind of start recognizing, oh, maybe that person or this firm or from this style came from there. And lo and behold, I'll look it up and go, yep.
But we've also learned that some people actually had that style done because they were so opulent. They wanted everybody to know that they had money.
Oh, yeah.
But the gargoyles,
they did that.
I have to say, the gargoyles, I know we saw them in Alabama, and I know we saw them in Texas. And the reason I centered on the gargoyles, because in South Africa, where we lived, there were lots of gargoyles on lots of buildings. And there's two different beliefs about them. They're a protection against evil spirits. And then other people think they are the evil spirits. It's which I find really fascinating. To me, but I like gargoyles.
Which one do you believe?
I just think people go and sculpt them because it's fun.
Yeah,
that's what I
remember them in last
South
time
Africa.
I remember them immediately off the top of my head was in California, actually.
And but they're all over in South Africa, like
Gilroy, California.
And so you would you just go, that's cool, because they're kind of lions with wings or monkeys with wings and different animals with wings. Oh, we gotta have, and I just think it's funny. I enjoy
but back in the day, that was,
but it meant something to them. To us, we just go, well, that's fun.
No, but back in the day, it didn't mean something like the pineapple with the, the pineapple with the Victorian, when we went to Erie, Pennsylvania, that's what blew my mind on architecture, and really going from the Southwest to suddenly, and California and Arizona to suddenly being in Pennsylvania. I was like, holy cow. Like, this is like the real deal. And we lived in England and everything, but this was America, and then here it is. Here's all the brick and the steel, like this was the steel land, and Carnegie and all of that stuff. And then here comes the opulence, these major historic homes where these fancy rich people put stuff in that they didn't even care or believe in, just to show off their opulence. Like they just did it to show, like, I'm rich and you're not. Like that was their thing. They wanted to show it off. Like now, like if you were that rich, you have to have 20,000 bodyguards, like over there, they're like, no, I'm rich and I'm going to have all this Victorian stuff and stuff I don't understand and I don't care about, just to prove I'm rich. That is like insane.
I don't think the gargoyles were meant to be nice. I think they're a warning. And I think they're probably have an evil spirit connected to them if you believe in that stuff. I personally think it's funny.
I don't know.
I enjoy it. I like that historic.
Tom, have you seen a lot of them on your
I've seen,
trips?
yeah. I mean, a lot of things, a lot of different, I guess, motifs and stuff. I see
Yeah.
that, especially on churches, stained
Yeah.
glass windows,
Mhm.
Yeah.
cornices on buildings that are out
Mhm.
there. It's fascinating how things,
Yeah.
start tying together, and then you look at that and go, okay, nice house, but they're a famous person and it was little, or a person who, probably don't hear about, but had super tons of money that were out there.
Mhm.
With information. I think, you learn a lot by digging in and spending time and, asking the questions of why did this town come here? What started it? I was doing a video. It was in Iowa, not along Jefferson Highway. I was actually putting one together today. A little small town called Alyea, Iowa. Cute town, very cool historic buildings in it. But I started reading that there was coal, that the reason the town was founded was there were coal mines just outside of town. I'm going, coal mines in Iowa? And, so I've been going down that.
Wow. Yeah.
Find, a little bit more about that. And it's just, it's fascinating what you find. And, you only see that by getting off the interstate, going through a town. If you really want to see it, get out and walk. Go to the history museum. That some of them are small little one-room places. Others are pretty nice.
And go to the coffee shop. Coffee shops.
Anything
Yeah.
with what I'll say is an
Well,
EUM.
you just never know what you're going to see in some of these small museums.
No.
I walked into one in Lamar, Missouri, and walked in there, and I'm looking here on the wall. I see this thing, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" I'm just taken aback. It's an original Jefferson Highway pine to palm sign from the 1920s, hanging right on their wall.
See,
wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
If I would not have taken the time to walk in that museum, I would have never seen.
See that, and listen, I want people to follow the Facebook group, the discussion group. The discussion group is amazing. What people are posting, these old signs and what's going on now. I mean, it is amazing to me, like just everything that has happened in this corridor. And it is a very diverse corridor. When you think about, pines to palms, it's diverse. And when you think about Winnipeg, you're in the prairie, really, in Canada, right? It's in the prairie and it's snowing, and you've got the Red River that goes backwards. It does. That's what our friends tell us, like our river goes backwards. And I had to relearn there's a bunch of red rivers. Like the last time, you remember I talked about that on the show, Roger, about the Red River going backwards, and then I had to find out that there's a bunch of red rivers. There's not just one, there's more. It's crazy. But that
was on Robin's Jets.
Yeah, I mean, but this is the thing. You don't know until you delve into the rabbit hole, which is the Jefferson Highway. So people make plans, start driving it. If you are on the Jefferson Highway, which you go to jeffersonhighway.org, check out the map, click on that little link and start looking at the map. If you're on it and you are a visitor bureau at Chamber of Commerce, you should be on this. Like, honestly, join this. Am I allowed to say that? Can I say that, Roger? Like,
you can say it. You can say it.
I can. Get your sign, get on board. Roger, what's happening in regards to the next conference? Or do we know?
Conferences planning for 2023 is well established. We were expected to be in Mason City, Iowa in 2020, and then COVID hit and it got pushed back, and there was some other reasons that we went ahead and did Pittsburgh before we did Mason City. But Mason City is in a community, the CVB there and others in that community have been embracing us for some time, and we are very excited to be going to Mason City And our main headquarters will be the Park Inn in the Frank Lloyd Wright designed hotel, which
Here's Frank Lloyd again.
I've had the great privilege of staying in my past and looking forward to being there again. And we have the whole hotel is blocked for a conference, so we're excited about that. And we are
what are the dates?
Bus
what
tour
are the dates?
June 7th through 10th, 2023. We will be taking a bus tour up into southern Minnesota. And we already mentioned Albert Lee. That'll be one of the communities we're going into on the bus tour. And looking forward to a great conference. We're already starting to work on our 2024 side is to be announced probably in the next 3 or 4 months. So,
wow. Okay, don't mess with the Jefferson Highway. Just get on it. So jeffersonhighway.org is the website. And if you go on there, you can connect into these old newsletters that date back to like 1916. So check them out. Go on there. They have cool history. And then let's go back to Tom. Tom, tell everybody how they can connect with you.
Through a couple different mediums. Everything's going to be under Wandering Walks of Wonder. So Wandering, WANDER, Walks of Wonder. I have a YouTube channel where I post videos of all the walks that I do, as well as some museums. Instagram, same name. And Facebook, which I do quite a bit out there when I'm traveling.
Cool.
Travel season's about ended. Maybe we'll see. I always tell my wife that, but she says, yeah, sure. But
yeah, right.
Yeah, she goes, yeah, right. You're old. I just got back from a trip on Sunday for a couple weeks, but those are the main locations. I'm still doing books, new ones coming out all the time. And I think, this year's travel along Jefferson Highway has given me ideas of not only different books that I can do in different locations, but, be able to have an opportunity to, I would like to travel it some more, especially south of here. It's very easy for me to get into Oklahoma and northern Louisiana and those type of places.
We'd love to see you have a guide like this for the whole route. It'd be really awesome.
I could definitely, that is on the plans to do that in the individual cities. And again, Mason Cities, you're talking about the next convention you have is right on the list because I fell in love with Mason City. I like almost all. Sometimes you go to a town, you're like, why? But for the most part, but Mason City was one I fell in love with, and one I knew right away. That would definitely be a guidebook. And then, as I mentioned earlier, saying, okay, there's a good 10, 15, 20 nice towns that would go in, kind of like I did with my Route 66 book. Doing that.
Nice.
I
hope you go to Natchitoches.
Lincoln Highway or Dixie Highway, but literally, I live in Gladstone, Missouri, which 169, if I remember right, is on Jefferson Highway, which is 2 miles from my house.
Right.
Kearney, Missouri, Eagleville. Some of those places are like 10 minutes from my house. So.
Okay, so when we get to your area, we're going to call you. We're going to go for a walk.
Yeah,
seriously.
I would definitely love to, just get.
I would love to take a walk with you because it'd be so cool, like just to go, like, okay, this house is this, we because we do that everywhere we go. It's like, and it's interesting the way we travel as full-time travelers. Like sometimes, like you can only do a little bit because all your stuff's in the car. Or you have to be settled and then you can go walk out, or it's different. But I think it's so, I really, really, really appreciate what you do for history and to slow people down. I appreciate that so much because I think, Nancy and I walk. We love walking, and we're not doing it for physicality, and anybody who meets us will know that. It's really about slowing down and taking it all in. And I think what you're doing is really, I don't know anybody who does it that way. And I appreciate it so much, because if people knew it wasn't a race, it's about the experience. I think you're doing that in such a great way. Just encouraging people to just get out there, and you don't have to be out there to be the next Olympian. And I appreciate that a lot, because people don't. You can do it in your own neighborhood. You can do it anywhere. And the Jefferson Highway, I would do it. I'm just saying we already are, but like, do it. Do these places. Go find out what that house is that you walk by and you see that little sign that they're part of that history. What is that history of that house? That hotel, that restaurant, that, there's markers on places all over. Maybe it's on the floor. Maybe it's a tethering place for a horse at some point. Check it out, because it will add to your walk. When you walk, think about what happened in that place at that time, So I think, Tom, what you're doing is amazing. It really does get people to slow down and also remember what's going on, what has happened in the past and where we are now. And maybe not throw down those buildings so fast, right? To preserve them. That's a big part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So everybody, keep up with Tom. Go to I'm going to get this right. Wandering Walks of Wonder. So wandering is with an A and wonder with an O, because they're wonderful. And of course, keep up with everything on the Jefferson Highway at jeffersonhighway.org. We are here every fourth Thursday, so keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. With that, we want to thank Natchitoches, Louisiana. Now, talk about a place to walk. Like, come on, Tom, have you done Natchitoches, Louisiana yet?
Oh, yeah. I think I actually have a video out there already that I've put out. Yeah.
If you do, I'm going to come after you if you don't. Like, this is one of the best places. Like, that's, Nancy, if we're going to retire there, right? It kind of feels like we always talk about that. We're going to end up in Natchitoches. Natchitoches, Louisiana is one of the coolest places on the planet, and definitely part of the Jefferson Highway. And so check them out. Go to natchitoches.com, and that's NATCHITOCHES, Natchitoches.com. That's not how it sounds, but it's how it's spelled. Check them out. Up in Northwest Louisiana, the oldest settlement in the state, the oldest city, and also the oldest settlement in the Louisiana Purchase. So check them out there. And we're going to close with this song. Now, are you ready for this, Roger? We always have to have music, right? I know.
Of course.
I don't have Oklahoma music yet. We'll get there for you. We'll get there. In fact, I do actually have some. I'll figure that out one day. I got it. But today we're going to play Shelley King. This is Shelley King. She's from Arkansas and lives in Texas, right? So both are part of like the Louisiana Purchase and part of the Jefferson Highway, right? We can say that if she was up in the north part of Arkansas, and then she's in Austin, but she's like, the first lady of music of Austin, or Texas, excuse me, Texas, the state. We're going to play Walk On because of Tom. This is the song Walk On. It's from her album, Fan Fave. So here it is. And keep up with Shelley at shelleyking.com. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, guys.
Great to be here. Great deal. Enjoyed it.
On a hardwood floor, wonder if I'll see you anymore. Trees are budding out and the river's running high. Wonder if you meant it when you said goodbye. Walk on, go ahead and leave. I hate to see you go, but honey, I believe where a rainbow ends, there's a pot of gold. Something better waiting on down the road. So walk on. Walk on, now than I was before. No turning back, moving down the line. Don't worry, baby, it'll be just fine. Walk on, go ahead and leave. I hate to see you go, but honey, I believe where a rainbow ends, there's a pot of gold. Something better waiting on down the road. So walk on, walk on, walk on. Shadow of doubt draped across your heart. The answers you're looking for are miles away. I ain't about to stand in the way. Sitting by the water, sun shimmers on the sand, hoping everything goes as planned. Highway rolls as far as I can see, and miles to go before I sleep. Walk on, go ahead and leave. I hate to see you go, but honey, I believe where a rainbow ends, there's a pot of gold. Something better waiting on down the road. So walk on, go ahead and leave. I hate to see you go, but honey, I believe